All right. Now, first off, thank you all for coming out today. Obviously tomorrow it's not only a special night because it's our senior night, but it's a heck of a ball game. It's two top 10 teams competing for a chance to better their position not only for the ACC tournament but the NCAA tournament. We just got an email from Norland Finch, our commissioner within the ACC of women's basketball, stating that this is the first time in 42 years that with 2 games remaining, a week remaining in the ACC conference regular season schedule, not one seed is determined within our 15-team tournament. Not one. Every single game has an impact tomorrow night and then on Sunday of where somebody's going to be seated. And that's the first time in 42 years. Our league is without a doubt the best in women's basketball, top to bottom. I just saw Coach Norman tweeted out, the Warner Ladder candidates for Coach of the Year. We have 5 coaches within our league out of the 15 that are on that list. So I think it just shows that, not only do we have great players, but we do have pretty darn good coaches within this league. And that's what makes it as competitive as it is. Because each night you come out, you've got to figure out how you're going to beat someone. It's just not my players are better than yours. We have coaches that do an excellent job of scheming. They come up with game plans. And you've got to figure it out as the game's going on. Okay, this is what they're trying to do. How are we going to counter that? So, it's a wonderful league. And tomorrow night, it's going to be 2 of the top 4 teams competing against each other to try and figure out, who's going to be able to finish where within our league. For our players, it's 3 wonderful young women who have done a ton, not just for our basketball program, but I feel for our university and our city. It's kids that give back every single game, especially home. When you look at what they do after every single home ball game and taking the time to sign autographs and take pictures, and as I've always said, it's easy after you win. It is easy. But last Sunday, after that Miami game, I talked to him for 2 minutes. That's it, at half court. And you've got to switch the switch. You've got to go from a competitor who's devastated after a loss to, I've got to put a smile on my face, I've got to go thank people. And that's not as easy as some people think it is. But I've got to give all the credit to these young women who handled that so well. I'll start with AC. It's her 5th year. And I talk about AC and Sam the same way because it's you don't see it very often anymore in today's sports. It's 2 kids that came in as freshmen, didn't play a bunch, played limited minutes as freshmen, played a little bit more as sophomores. And normally, in today's day and age, it's time to go. The grass is greener on the other side of the street. I'm getting out of here. I'm not getting what I want out of this. And those 2 just simply kept working and said, hey, I know I can get better if I put the time in and if I keep preparing myself for when the opportunity comes. And then they have breakout junior years. And instead of complaining about things after their sophomore year, they got in the gym. They just continued to get better and better. And now you look at what they did their junior year and now what they've done their senior year for us. They're 2 players that have been integral parts of a Final Four team and of a team right now that's 25-2 with a lot of games hopefully left to play and a lot of possibilities what could happen. But you just don't see it very often anymore. You just don't see kids in any sport that will sit there and understand it's a journey and it's not always a straight line up. There's lots of peaks and valleys. And instead of complaining, they just went to work. So I'm really proud of them. They're great. They're great kids. I have a ton of fun with them. I push them hard on the basketball court, but we have a lot of laughs off the court, and that's what makes it so much fun. Asia, she came in here with a lot of hype, and I think she's lived up to it. Her freshman year obviously was a little bit tougher because of the fact she had surgery before the year started. And then instead of just saying, hey, coach, I'm going to redshirt, I'm just going to sit out, I'm clocking it in for right now, we figured out a way to get her through the year. She was cleared medically from our doctors, and it was just a matter of being able to figure out a way to get back into the flow of the game. She'd never been injured before. So I don't believe she started a game her freshman year. It was one where we sat there and said, hey, babe, let's figure out if we can change this 40-minute game to a 30-minute game. And that's what we did with most of it, where we played her. She came off the bench, so she missed the first 5 minutes of the first half, and then would miss the first 5 minutes of the second half because I'd bring her in off the bench. So now it went from a 40-minute game to a 30-minute game. And then I think she ended up averaging about 24, 25 minutes her freshman year. And she had a couple ball games. I can remember our Michigan State game at Michigan State, ACC Big Ten Challenge, where I think she had 30-something, high 20s. And it was kind of like the coming out of like, okay, here's what this kid can do. And then once she got healthy, you just continue to see the progression of what she has grown into. Our fan base, I know they love coming out and watching her. She does a remarkable job with all the fans. It's neat to watch those three seniors, how they interact. You go from freshmen who are timid at times to when you see those three, they run the table. They're out there in charge of it. They're going up and putting their arm around a little girl or a little boy and getting a picture with them to make them feel comfortable. And I think that's what it's all about. The wins and losses, they've got a chance, if we can win a few more games to be the winningest class in school history, which speaks volumes. I think we're 61-5 in the last 66 games right now. That's not bad.
No.
So it's just, the wins are great, but I'm telling you, it's the moments that we've had off the floor that we'll all go back and talk about and laugh about as the years pass. What kind of questions from you?
Jeff, talking about the instability of seedings for the ACC tournament, how solid do you see your position going into the NCAA tournament at this point, and how much more work do you have to do to secure that number one seed?
Well, that's it's a good question, because I think a lot of it anymore. What's really been amazing about this year, it's not just based on what you're doing, because there have been so many upsets per se. There's so much more parity within our game that normally, if we're to lose and we're on that one line right now, the likelihood of UConn or Notre Dame or Oregon, Mississippi State, whoever might be that other number one team, Baylor, to lose was like, it's not going to happen. Well, now it's, two of them might get beaten in 1 week, which has never happened before. Mm-hmm. So we definitely, all we're focused on is ourselves. We know NC State tomorrow night is going to be a great basketball game. Our last 5 games have come down to the last two minutes of the game in every single one of them. And they're a top 10 team. They're like number 6 or 7 in the last RPI that came out. So if we can win that game, definitely going to help us. But then we've got to go up to Pittsburgh and make sure you don't lay an egg, because they're in a rebuilding process right now. I think they're 1-13 or 1-14 in league play, but had a huge win against North Carolina at home. You can't go up there and not be prepared to play, because if you don't take care of business there, you win tomorrow night, nobody's going to care about Thursday night. So these last 2 games, I think, have a lot of impact on where we're going to end up being if we can stay on that one line or not.
Well, it's hard to compare players on and off the floor, but you've had a lot of kids that came in and maybe had a rough time early on. Has anybody transformed more than Sam, though, during your career?
I'm going to put AC and Sam right together. Those two are by far, through my 12 years, the 2 kids that have come in here as freshmen and raised the level of their game the highest. It was a rough start for both of them. It's a bigger change than what a lot of people think when you come in here. You come from being an 18-year-old in college, 17, 18-year-old in high school, take that, playing against 16, 15, and 14-year-olds. You know, you get down to some freshmen that play on varsity, they're 14, 15 years old. And now you're going out there as a 17, 18-year-old playing against a 22-year-old woman. And the change that takes place during those 4 or 5 years, it's remarkable to watch. And for some of them, it's just a, oh, wow moment. And I think that's what hit both of them. But they just put the time in. They just kept grinding and grinding and grinding and put up with me, and I challenged them. You know, I challenged them hard because I knew the potential that they had, or we wouldn't have recruited them. And now you look at what they've done, and it's just been a remarkable transformation from their freshman year to senior year.
How did you become Satan?
Oh, Sam, you know what? Sam and I had a love-hate relationship for about 2.5 years. And I think from my side it was more love, and for her side it was more hate. But no, I just challenged her. I always challenged her. She's as hard-headed as I am. So we could sit out there in the middle of the floor and just beat heads against each other. It would have been a perfect day of practice for her. I will say she's one of the highest basketball IQ players that we've had here in the 12 years that I've been here. And I think part of that, she could be like, well, I know what I'm doing. And I'd be like, that's great, but this is what we want you to do. So we would just go back and forth. And it's just one of those, as she realized what I was trying to do for her, what our staff was trying to do, then I think she started to realize, okay, yeah, they do care about me, but Sam and I it's great. I mean, it really is. I say it with a lot of my players that I'm going to challenge them and push them to be the best they can be on the basketball court. And at times they're not going to like me, but I do. I compare it to parenting. I say it all the time. My kids, my own kids, they love me, but they don't always like me. You know, I've got to take toys away at times. I've got to discipline at times, and that's the same thing we do at this age. So we want them to be the best. And in order to be the best, everything's not easy. And that's the one thing in 12 years that I've never wavered from. And Sam and I just went back and forth. AC the same way. She'll tell you. I'm sure she has. But look at where they are now. At the end of the day, that's what's most important. Not that they're just great basketball players, and I think they are, but they're great people. I mean, the impact they've made in our community, I don't think anybody can deny. Not just those two, but our women's basketball team. And when you can win and do it the right way with the right kids, it's a big impact. And I think they've done remarkable.